this campaign is really it's two parts. It's first of all to get men to reflect. And this campaign doesn't put men in that perpetrator bracket. It asks that the whole film, from the start, starts to look at language and words. So we're asking men to reflect on past, current behaviours and make the connection between other forms of violence and abuse. But then we want men to have the courage to speak up, to speak to their friends, use their friendship, I suppose, to call out bad behaviours. And, calling out is quite confrontational. I want men to call their friends in, make that connection before you speak to them.
What is it that men actually, I mean, it's difficult to ask, isn't it, really? But what is it that men are doing wrong? Is it just that they need to communicate with each other more?
I think it's important, it's important we start to ask why we're seeing these issues. And, most men in this world don't commit these types of offences, but often, more often than not, we remain silent. When we see these offences, our boys and men are growing up in this toxic culture. And if you look at the impact of pornography, modern pornography, where men win and women lose, it's misogynistic and violence, something's going to happen. So for me, it's in the air that boys and men breathe. And we just want to start that conversation, not to target boys and men, but to see them as the solution to these issues.
And to that end, I mean, I've been reading what you've been saying, and certainly the video is saying that sexual violence starts well before you think. What do you mean by that?
Well, just after the Sarah Everard case, I was asked by my brother about, how can I prevent rape and murder in this country? And I said to my brother, stop thinking about these types of acts and start thinking about the language, the words, and it's often excused as banter. And the research says that if we just allow these things to continue with no interruption, we will see other forms of violence in more extreme forms. So the interruption just comes from speaking to your friends. And it's not about waiting for things to happen. All men every single day can talk about these issues. I know men feel deeply passionate about what's going on. They're really upset, annoyed, angry about what's happening. So simply by talking about these stories, you set the norms for your peer group.
Yeah, so you are agreeing that it's men talking to each other about what they should, what is and isn't acceptable. But what about having that conversation in school as well?
I know across the country, there's some great work going on in schools to have the very conversations that you have just discussed there. In Scotland, we have the Mentors and Violence Prevention Programme that we set up in the Violence Reduction Unit and is now led by the Education Scotland. I'm supporting some of the violence reduction units in England and Wales to set up the same programme. We're having conversations, bringing boys, everybody into the conversation as the solution. Prevention of any issue starts in a community, whether that be a town, a city, a workplace, or within groups of men. We are a community, and if we talk about these issues more and more, we will start to better understand the healthy views that men have.
Yeah, and I suppose very timely to point out that police services up and down the country also need to look at their behaviour.
This campaign, as I said before, focuses on all men. And I think, we are seeing, some police officers who are deeply concerned about what is going on. And my ask of them is to speak about this campaign, call in these behaviours if you see them in your workplace. This applies to all men, not just police officers, all men in all types of organisations.